I just finished doing a comedy set and I started getting some cramps in my side. They discovered 9 to 12 growths. They were cancerous and there was no treatment or cure.
Worst case scenario, Steve had 5 years to live.
It hit me hard. I didn't have decades to hope my dreams might come true.
You want to support your friend, but getting on Letterman, you know it's kind of a long shot.
Timing is everything when it comes to comedy, especially if you only have 5 years to live and your goal is to score a gig on The Late Show with David Letterman. Faced with a fatal diagnosis, our next guest chose to follow his lifelong dream and make people laugh along the way. He's a comedian, filmmaker, and subject of the award-winning documentary To Do Letterman. We welcome Steve Mazan to MidPoint. Steve, how's it going today?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, Rick. Appreciate it.
Our pleasure. What a memorable goodbye last night for David Letterman. Funny, unique. It was kind of a touching in a Letterman kind of way. As you watched the show, you must have been so proud that you were actually a part of that show.
Yeah, definitely. To be part of that history. I mean, there were so many different montages they showed last night, and then even over the past 3-4 weeks. The memories of that show, and again, it's I was kind of obsessed with the show since Letterman came on in '82, even back to his earlier show. So got all the memories. It was great to see them all, and excited every time I actually really thought about it, and I was like, wow, you're part of this history. So yeah, really exciting.
I mean, it was exciting for me. I've never been on this show. Just to kind of watch it, it sort of made you reflect as far as what you've been doing the last 33 years. But I wanted to talk to you about your documentary, which is sensational, and it kind of sets up the Letterman appearance. It's your ultimate career goal. I mean, there's different late shows out there. There's different comedians. What was it about David Letterman's show?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it was timing, and then of course, his talent and what he did for late night TV. Growing up, when I was a kid, Johnny Carson was the guy, so I'd stay up late sometimes and be doing homework when Johnny Carson would be on, and he was funny. I love him. Looking back, I know he was a master as well. But all of a sudden, this guy came on after Johnny Carson, in the '80s, Letterman, and he was different, and he didn't look like a movie star or the guys that were on Johnny Carson. He had a gap in his tooth. He was from Indiana, and he talked about it. You know what I mean? Like he seemed to embrace that he was a Midwestern guy, and he had a quirky sense of humor. He was doing all this stuff we had never seen on late night, and I think that's one of the things we kind of take it for granted. He's changed late night so much that all these things that all the other guys do now, we think, oh, well, that's what you do on a late night television show. But Dave was the guy that started a lot of these things that are done, the going out on the street and the crazy stunts and doing different stuff with celebrities instead of just sitting in chairs with them. That's what Letterman brought to the table when he finally came in, and so he inspired me, and I was like, I saw the comedians he had on. There were different comedians than Carson had on, and I was like, you know what, I want to do stand-up comedy, and my goal after getting into stand-up comedy was to be on his show, because he became the show that comedians wanted to be on. That's the pinnacle of a comedian's career, was to be on Letterman.
And sometimes it can be dangerous to actually meet your hero, to actually kind of check off that item on the bucket list because it doesn't live up to your expectations. As you reflect back on your appearance on Letterman, what are your memories of David Letterman? And was it all a blur actually being on that stage?
Yeah, it was definitely a blur. I mean, you can imagine the nerves. Just besides just Letterman, the history of where he was doing the show, the Ed Sullivan Theater. The Beatles had performed on that stage. Elvis was on that stage. So just being on that stage was nerve-wracking enough. And then luckily, I had tempered my expectations about meeting him. Everyone had told me beforehand that he's a reclusive guy. He's not one of the kind of guys that comes and meets you before and meets you at the dressing room and that kind of thing. So don't expect anything, that kind of thing. I knew people who were supposedly his favorite comedians said over the years they'd only talked to him for a total of a minute. So don't get excited. But I will say, the minute I told the last line of my joke and I knew I was done with my set and the audience was applauding, then the excitement hit me, because I was like, I had never thought about it, but now is when I'll get to meet him. Now he's as I'm standing here smiling, waving at the crowd, he's walking up behind me. And so I got really excited. And if you see the stand-up I performed on the show, you could tell how giddy I get when I'm done. You think I should be giddy when I walk out, but it's actually when I'm done, because I realize I'm going to meet him. And he was very complimentary and amazing. And as we went to break, he said a few more kind words, and he actually gave me one of the cue cards that I have hanging in my home. And so yeah, it was exciting. And luckily I had tempered my expectations so that I wouldn't be disappointed.
And was he familiar with the documentary project, and was he supportive of that?
You know, it's funny you say that. There was no mention from him or anyone on the staff of the documentary. And I would say if it was any other late night show host, I would think they had probably heard about it or that. But Letterman was very reclusive, even on his show. Like, he was very removed from the day-to-day operations. He would come in. He's even said, I think he said on the show last night on the finale, for a while it's just been this oiled machine that he would show up and do, that it was the writers and producers putting it together. So to tell you the truth, I don't think he knew that day. If he had known about the project, about me trying to get on this Dying to Do Letterman project I had, if he knew about it, I don't think he knew that I was the guy that day. And there's a good chance he didn't even know about that the producers and the other people involved with the show day to day knew about it, but he didn't.
For you, what made him better than Leno, Carson, and some of the other late night talk show hosts?
What made Dave better?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that he really went out of, instead of staying in the lanes that were set up for him beforehand, he jumped out of that kind of box that we're used to. Like I said, it's so weird now. If you watch him over the past 10 years, and he's admitted, I think, in a Rolling Stone interview recently and even last night, that maybe he's been, without using the words phoning it in, he's been just showing up and doing the show. But when you look back and you see last night the montage of all the things that he's done over there, the going back to the monkey cam, or the dropping all the fruit or objects off of the top of the buildings, going to work at Taco Bell, all these things, these are things that every late night show host does now. But
Steve, we're going to jump in there real quick, and obviously to wish you the best of health. The book is Dying to Do Letterman. And again, thank you so much for appearing on Newsmax TV.